I'm Otto Stehlik. I'm the CEO of Protea Hotels. My brother and I grew up under the tables of restaurants, hotel restaurants that my father and my mum were entertaining their clientele. There wasn't really enough resource for babysitters as they were entertaining a lot. So we tagged along. But it really evolved as we were teenagers to actually working at the hotels on weekends, public holidays, and so on. But every staff member knew us, especially at the Herengracht Hotel.
How old were you then?
I was 8. That was the time that I was working on weekends as a page boy and a bellboy and operating the lift at the Herengracht Hotel. And at that stage, I was earning more tips than the established porters at the hotel. I think many of the international guests kind of took pity on me, and I was getting 50 cents and R1 tips at times. And I had more disposable income than any of my mates at home. I was very fortunate to have gone to school at Bishop's in Cape Town. That's something I'm very grateful for. My parents always believed in at least giving us the opportunity to have the best education, whether they could afford it or not, which they couldn't at that stage. After the Navy, 2 years national service, I studied at Stellenbosch University, BCom, always knowing that I wanted to get into the hotel business. And at that stage, there were many professional hoteliers, but without the commercial background and commercial experience or commercial qualifications. And that's something that I wanted to pick up. I headed off to hotel school after that, Wits Hotel School up in Joburg. And that was really the foundation for many of the relationships that I have with hotel colleagues around the world, and the influences of the lecturers were very, very positive, including Doc Mornay, who's an industry legend. From there, I went off to Cornell University in the States, which was my introduction to the concept of revenue management, which was being pioneered at that time, which I'm again very grateful for. There are a number of reasons for starting Protea Hotels. Some of them are personal and some of them are business related, but I suppose the main factor is my desire to fulfill my own dreams, which has always been to be doing exactly what I'm doing today, which is having my own hotel company. But the real driving factor behind the establishment of Protea Hotels came from my own need to turn my own life around. I moved from Johannesburg, moved to Cape Town to start afresh, and very quickly started looking around at hotel projects to either buy, lease, develop. I couldn't find any. And then I realized that the real projects that were available, the only projects that were available, were the projects, hotel projects that were shrouded in difficulty. And then I very quickly understood that, success is not built on cherry picking successful projects. You need to find the success out of difficulty. And the first project came up in Durbanville. None of the other hotel operators had managed to, I suppose, extract the potential value from what appeared at face value to look like a very difficult project. I was fortunate enough to be able to extract that value. And based on that, Protea Hotels was formed with my purchase of a hotel in Durbanville, which is now a very successful business. And the tenets of the success, we really try and replicate in all of our hotels today. The key success factors, number one, goes back to location. That's an age-old phenomenon. That's an age-old principle that still remains true today. The second, and possibly the most fundamental factor, is can we, or me, or my team, add value? If we can't add value, we simply can't get involved. The third thing is, can we manage and market the hotel better than the previous operator or previous owner? We need to be able to answer that question. If we can tick all three of those factors off, then we're in line for success. Without a doubt, the best decision I've ever made was to make a conscious decision 10 years ago to turn my life around, to get out of what I was doing in Johannesburg and to return home to Cape Town and to start afresh. Well, it's not particularly funny or strange, but it had a huge impact on me because it cost me a lot of money. I was working as a receptionist at the Athenaeum Hotel in London, and we had a multi-billionaire check into the hotel, flew in on the Concorde, okay, at huge expense, and needed to leave at 4 o'clock the next morning to be back at Heathrow to fly back on the Concorde after having got the signature, received the signature that he needed. When he checked in, he asked for a wake-up call. Okay, I wrote the time down, the room number, and at the end of my shift, I forgot to put the wake-up call into the system. As a result, he woke up at 10 o'clock the next morning, having missed his flight, and the hotel held me purely responsible financially for footing the bill for his flight. Okay. Nevertheless, I paid 1 week of a contribution, which was meant to take about 5 years of a payment plan. There are so many. I'm so fortunate and blessed to have him as a role model in my life today and being able to call on him for advice. But the key wisdom, source of wisdom, has always been his ability to find positivity under the most difficult circumstances. And that can be tracked back to taking hotels which were in a really bad shape and Protea turning them around, to his own personal approach, which was always try and find or visualize positivity in every situation, because if you do, the effect will always be positive. There is a time to plan and a time to do. Never do when you plan and never plan when you do. Well, knowing myself, I'm not mundane. There's nothing mundane about me. I can't do mundane, and I certainly can't do mundane in a working environment. I need the highs and the lows. I rely on that stuff. I'm an adrenaline junkie. I make no apologies for that. So what normally gets me up in the morning, apart from the cries of my 1-year-old son, are, I wouldn't call them crises, but I suppose all of the typical things that affect the day-to-day life of a start-up business. And no day is ever the same. A crisis can jump out at all times, and 9 times out of 10 it does. So I'm normally in crisis or semi-crisis mode when I get up in the morning. And that spurs me for the rest of my day. My favorite hotel is a South African hotel in the South Coast, Sanlamir. It's a hotel that we were very fortunate to stay at growing up, to escape the winters of Cape Town. But what they did was they had a children's program second to none, where you didn't necessarily have to see your parents at any stage of the day or night. And it was professionally run in such a way that you couldn't wait to come back the next year. I see myself as a more balanced and settled individual, having suffered the rigors of a typical startup organization with all of its highs and lows. Less crisis, more stability, more structure, and perhaps working with an international hotel group in some fashion or form on spreading the gospel of Bon throughout the world.